Good afternoon. Welcome to the CENTCOM CHIPS Opportunity Webinar held by GDI Consulting. My name is Cal, and I am your artificial intelligence host today. With me is Ab Vand, VP for Capture at GDI Consulting and a subject matter expert on these opportunities. Ab has over 30 years of experience in capture and proposal management. He is considered an expert in self-scoring as well as traditional proposal and capture efforts. Ab has managed over 1,000 successful capture and proposal efforts and is a regular contributor to Washington Technology and other online GovCon magazines. He has also held numerous training webinars for various APMP chapters and APEX, previously PTAC, offices throughout the U.S. Before starting, there are a few housekeeping notes I would like to mention. First, this webinar is being recorded and the link to the recording will be sent to you within 24 hours. Second, we will hold a Q&A session at the end. You can send your questions during the webinar by the chat system to the right of your window and Ab will address them at the end. Third, you can download this presentation by clicking on the link under File on the right-hand side panel on your window. We highly recommend you download the slide deck so that you can always refer back to it. So let's see what this webinar covers. We will first have a quick glimpse on GDI Consulting's capabilities. Then, a little bit of a background on the CENTCOM CHIPS and after that the general details of the CENTCOM CHIPS opportunity and its scope of work. Next will come a discussion of the proposal structure and volume and what the requirements are. Then Ab will discuss the source selection process. We will also touch on the subject of partnering as it is an important issue in the CHIPS opportunity. Finally, before going into the Q&A, Ab will provide his recommendations towards preparing a winning proposal. If I want to summarize the message that we want to convey in this webinar, it is that you should not underestimate the workload, nor the importance of partnering. So, with that, I will now hand over the control to Ab to first give a short glimpse on GDI Consulting's capabilities. Ab, you can take over now.
Thank you, Cal, and hello everyone. Thank you for participating in our webinar. So let's start with a glimpse of GDIC's capabilities and move from there. I apologize for those of you who are our regular participants, but this is essentially for newcomers. I'll go quickly on this. So we've had a more than a decade of solid performance. We have an 81% win rate. Since CHIPS is a new opportunity, I can't give you our previous win rate on that. But this 81% is the average 3-year win rate for our company. And in 2023, we had 226 wins with $11.9 billion of contracts that we got for our clients. You can always refer back to this for more details. So I'll jump over these. These are some of the agencies that we have written towards or are competent in terms of being able to win towards them, both military and civilian agencies throughout the federal government. As far as the services that we can provide for CHIPS, we will provide free consultation. So you can contact us and we'll set up a call, discuss any questions you might have in terms of both eligibility, qualification assessments, and the other services that we might have. As well as answering any technical questions that you might have. There are essentially two main services we provide: full proposal development. We usually put a dedicated proposal team towards preparing your proposal, and we take responsibility for the entire, all the volumes, cradle to grave, with multiple reviews, collegiate reviews. Or in case of those companies that are doing it in-house, we can provide review services, multiple reviews for the full proposal, including compliance reviews and strategy consultation. So these are the main two services we provide. Now, the GDIC has essentially 4 different divisions: proposal development, which is goes into eligibility and score assessment, full proposal development, doing reviews, corrugate reviews, and staff augmentation towards our clients. Our capture management division provides both dedicated long-term capture management for usually larger contractors, as well as short-term sourcing and qualification of opportunities. The support services, which is usually used by larger companies. Here we provide competitive intel, black hat exercises, and price to win efforts for our clients. And finally, the training division provides both proposal development and capture management training to our clients. So these were essentially the different 4 different divisions of GDIC. Now I've put our contact information here, so if you would like to contact us both for technical inquiries, please contact me. You'll see my email and phone. Email would be much better. Or my colleague for consulting calls or sales inquiries, Maroon Freedy, and his email and phone number are there as well. So once you download this presentation, you can always refer back to these. Okay, so having said that, let's first start with the CHIPS background. Why is it important for CENTCOM? So previously, CENTCOM has been providing different contracts to the industry for different needs. What they have done now is to consolidate it, most of their needs into one large contract. So I've summarized it into 5 different areas. So comprehensive support for operations, specialized expertise, operational efficiency and effectiveness, enhancing mission support, and streamlining operations. These were the aims of creating this CHIPS opportunity. So in terms of comprehensive support for operations, essentially they have summed up everything, all the different contracts into one, and in this way, they can cover the wide area, wide range of joint military operations across multiple theaters that U.S. CENTCOM is responsible for, and this creates a much easier support, but at the same time, a comprehensive support for all the operations by one contract. A specialized expertise, you will see as we go along in the slide deck, the expertise of the personnel that you will be proposing for the task orders and for the IDIQ. The SEEK project is really important for CENTCOM. So they want a contract that with which they can get the best skilled personnel and staff to actually take over the different jobs that they have. Operational efficiency and effectiveness. So by sourcing the outsourcing of this various services in one contract, CENTCOM actually can focus on its own core military functions, and at the same time, since it's one contract with a unified requirements, essentially it plays into the operational efficiency and effectiveness of CENTCOM. Enhancing mission support. So essentially one contract coordinated, it can be aligned with their objectives. So the people they take on, the task orders they put, becomes more aligned with the original CENTCOM's objectives. And the coordination between the different disciplines, as we'll see, it covers a lot of, the scope of CHIPS is very varied. So much more coordinated and aligned. And finally, streamlined operations. By outsourcing these functions, CENTCOM can actually streamline its operations and reduce administrative burdens. That is one of its main problems. That has been, it's actually for all these different commands throughout the world, US commands throughout the world. So they have a lot of administrative burdens, and this helps that a lot, so they can focus on their primary mission. So these were the reasons behind going after CHIPS, and putting one contract instead of multiple contracts, which is to the benefit of CENTCOM and its mission. So now let's start with the CHIPS general details before going into the actual proposal. So it is by the DoD. It's a CENTCOM, U.S. Central Command. type of contract is multiple award IDIQ, but it is agency specific, so it's only for CENTCOM, in fact. Estimated value is $750 million for the period of performance, and the period of performance is essentially 5 years if they go for the maximum. So it's 1 year base and 4 1-year options. Type of work is administrative, logistics, and management, and we'll go into the scope in more detail. It is set aside for SDVOSB and 8A companies only. So if you're not an SDVOSB or an 8A company, you cannot participate. I want to make this clear. So it's only for SDVOSB and 8A companies. Number of awards is 20, 10 for SDVOSB companies and 10 for 8A companies. And the next code is obviously 541611. The size standard is 24.5 million. So you need to be below that, your average 5-year income under that NAICS. Full RFP issue date, it's estimated to be in August 2024, or they might slip and go into September or later. And the award date based on that August 2024 would be around January 2025. So it's not going to take a year as some of these larger opportunities take. So 3-4 months and they will decide. Okay, so let's look at the scope, and you'll see it's very comprehensive. So it starts with program management services, management and program analysis services, assessment, monitoring, and evaluation services, information technology services, data science services, logistics management services, so all of the logistics, operational contract support, or OCS as they call it, services, vendor threat mitigation services, acquisition management services, so everything about acquisition, financial management services, so that's a field by itself, language services, again translation and all that, scientific services, public affairs services, so that's another area completely different, and finally intelligence services. So you can see that there are 14 areas in the CHIPS opportunity. They're completely different from each other. You're not supposed to be providing all of them, so they're not looking for that. However, the more the better, obviously, but it shows that the task orders that they will be putting out under the CHIPS vehicle will be quite varied under these 14 different areas. Okay, a few more things. So place of performance. So US CENTCOM is headquartered at MacDill Air Force Base, Florida. So a lot of work will be there, but a lot of work will be also CONUS, or mostly actually OCONUS. And you understand that US CENTCOM is responsible essentially for Middle East and some of the West, if you take Iran in the middle, Western Iran, like Pakistan, Afghanistan, and then Northern Iran, those countries. But essentially the trouble areas are the Middle Eastern countries. So it is its function and its responsibilities are huge and very critical. So please understand this requirement. Now, there are obviously stringent security requirements. So your company must have at least a secret facility clearance to perform the task orders. Now, this is not, as far as I understand so far, maybe they will change it because we are at the draft RFP status. This is not a requirement now for submitting your proposal. So they're not asking you for proof of your secret facility clearance. But you need to have that before you can actually take on task orders. Now, the personnel that you provide, essentially, most of them will be required to have TS/SCI security, so top secret SCI security clearance, and some cases secret security clearance. But these will be mentioned at the task order time, not at the IDIQ level. Now, the seed project that you will go for in the IDIQ proposal, that requires mostly TS/SCI security clearance for the staff that you will be proposing. So take that into consideration. Okay, so let's move on now. We can now start our discussion about the proposal structure. So assuming that this is something you want to go after, you are either an STV, OSV, or an 8A company, you will be resolving or have already your secret facility clearance, and you're good to go with working both at Florida, the headquarters of CENTCOM, as well as travel to various bases, US bases in the CENTCOM AOR, which is essentially, as we saw in the map, Middle East and those areas. So assuming we are good there, let's start with the proposal structure. So there are 4 volumes to the proposal. Contracting information, there are 12 tabs that you need to complete, and that's volume 1. Volume 2 is technical. It has 2 sub-factors: staffing approach and management approach. Volume 3 is past performance, seed project performance history, and then IDIQ performance history. So you need to provide some contracts towards the seed project, and then provide some more contracts towards the IDIQ as a whole. And that's past performance. And then finally, the price volume. And the price volume is based on the seed project. You need to price it. We will go into how the government is going to select, but for your information, the technical, obviously, volume 1 is you have to sign everything and get all the forms in place. But volume 2 is pass fail. So technical is either pass or a fail. You're not being compared to others. Past performance is not pass fail, but you will be rated based on your past performance and how confident the government is with regards your performance prior to this, and how you will perform. And then price. Now, price, they will not they say they will not compare it that much, so it's least important. However, we will see that the way they're going to actually review proposals, price is very important. You don't want to have a very high price, and you don't want to have a very low price. So I will explain this. Even though they say past performance is much more important than price, because of the way that they're going to review and the steps and the phases that they're going to do in the selection process, price is very important. So we'll have a discussion on that as well. So these are the 4 volumes, and I'm going to discuss each of them separately. Now, volume 1, which is contracting information, has 12 tabs. Essentially, you have to make sure that you fill out everything correctly. So don't try to mix them up. As they have said, put a separate page for each tab. And as you can see, number of copies is 1. You're not supposed to provide multiple copies of the proposal, and this stands for the entire proposal. Now, so master table of content, volume 1 table of content, this is usual, no limit, but proposal cover sheet, 1 page, and they have actually provided that cover sheet. So you have to, it's a form, you have to fill that out. Proposal validity, you have to put this in a statement, but remember, don't mix this up with the others. So separate page for that. IDIQ signed statement, again, standard form SF 1449, contact information, again on a separate page, tab 7. It's better, you can actually say tab 7 and then on the same page say tab 8, company information, but it's much better to actually have these separate in the way that they're asking for it. OCI disclosure, if there's any, joint venture agreements for joint ventures, for JVs if you're actually participating as a JV. Subcontracted teaming partner consent letters if you are having subs, and I highly recommend that you do have them. Then you need to put your consent letters from your subcontractors here at tab 11. And then finally, continuation of essential contractor service for one. It's a requirement. It's a DoD requirement, so you have to put that on tab 12. So these are essentially administrative type work you put for volume 1. So we'll jump over this. Let's go to volume 2, which is very important. As I said, it's a pass-fail. You want to make sure that you cover everything here. So there are 10 tabs here. Volume 2, table of contents, obviously no limit, you can put it. But the staffing approach, you have 5 pages for that. For staffing approach, I will have some points on that. And then continuity of services, 1 page. Staffing matrix, perhaps the most important part of the entire sub-factor 1.1 staffing approach. That 10 pages is the staffing matrix. That is very important. Then workload projections, which is included in attachment 4, 1 page. And then we go into sub-factor 1.2 management approach. So up to here was staffing approach. Then in management approach, the overall management approach. And then we have quality control plan, communication plan, transition plan, 5 pages for each of these. And finally, attachment 5, employee compensation plan. There's a specific form that you have to fill out. You have to actually mention what the salaries for each employee is and what is the compensation plan for each employee LCAT is. And that's a 1-pager. It's a form that comes. So these are what you provide in volume 2. Now, some notes on volume 2. So some of the things, qualifications and points that you should emphasize when you're preparing your volume 2. You need to have a sound contract and task order management capabilities and experience. So make sure that you write towards that and you show them that you have a very sound and in place system for managing task orders and contracts, and you have experience on that. Qualification of the personnel with strong technical expertise based on the PW scope. That is very important. Again, make sure that you emphasize that and bring to the table personnel, especially for the seed project, who are highly qualified. Sound staffing and management approaches showing increased potential for success as they're looking for. So how you're going to do the staffing and management system, that's important. And then highlight your unique competencies in addition to what they're requiring. That is also important. Now, the staffing matrix, which has a 10-page limit, as I said, is the most important part in sub-factor 1.1, the staffing approach. And here you provide your staffing plan for the seed project. They don't need you to provide the resumes, so you're not supposed to provide resumes, but make sure that you highlight experience and education for all the proposal, for all the personnel that you are proposing for the seed project. And make sure that the qualifications actually exceed the minimum requirements that they are asking for. Now, if you can find personnel who have prior CENTCOM experience or similar, perhaps if you can't find people working at CENTCOM previously, perhaps at other commands, say the Euro Command or AFRICOM, all of them are good. That's very important, so you use that. And then for the management approach, ensure that you make the government confident that you can take on multiple simultaneous task orders with varying complexities. They want to make sure that you're not the type of company that just takes 1 or 2 task orders and cannot take more. They're going to have a lot of task orders. They want to make sure that you can actually manage multiple task orders, from simple to very complex ones. So you need to show that through your experience, through your past performance, and I will talk towards that, how you can actually leverage your subcontractors in that regard as well. Okay, so these were my notes towards the technical volume. Let's go to the third and fourth volume. So third volume is past performance. It has 3 tabs, obviously table of contents, but then you divide it into 2 sections. The seed project performance history and the CHIPS IDIQ performance history. So I will go into details, but for the seed project performance history, you're supposed to provide 3 contracts, and those 15 pages limit is towards the 3 contracts that you provide towards specifically the seed project. So they need to be relevant to that. And then towards the entire IDIQ, you can use those 3 contracts plus 2 more, overall 5 contracts to write towards the entire IDIQ and its scope. And you have a 20-pager limit here. So that's essentially volume 3, past performance. Now, volume 4 price, there is an attachment 4 seed project pricing spreadsheet. I will discuss that as well. But this is volume 3 and volume 4. Now, let's look at some of the requirements for volume 3, which is the past performance volume. As I said, you can provide up to 5 past performed projects, 3 for the seed projects, 2 more for the IDIQ. Now, these projects can overlap, so perhaps you provide only 3 overall, but the 3 are towards both the seed project, and also they cover, for example, the IDIQ project's history as well. So maximum 5, but minimum of 3, because that not minimum of, but it's better to have 3 for the seed project, and so on. Now, the recency for these projects must be, so they must have been performed within the past 5 years from date of the RFP issuance. And remember, the RFP is not issued yet. We are at the draft RFP. It's supposed to be issued, say, in August, end of August. So you have to go back 5 years. The completion date must be that. Obviously, they can be ongoing, but they have to have at least 1 year of performance. Relevancy, in addition to being similar in scope to the seed project, if you're using them, those 3 contracts for the seed project performance history, or if you're using 2 contracts for the IDIQ project's history, obviously towards the 14 scope areas. So they have to be similar to those in terms of scope, but at the same time, the projects you use must have at least 10 FTEs or more working at that project. So that's an important issue. You can't use the project that you had only 1 FTE. I understand that this creates a lot of limitations, but remember that you can always bring in subs and partners and create JVs and things like that to overcome this. But do remember, the contracts that you bring to the table for past performance must have at least 10 FTEs. Now, in the technical area, when you're discussing your past performance and past experience, they're not looking for this. So even if you had a contract with just 1 FTE and you perform towards one of the scope areas, you can always write towards that in your technical in volume 2. But here in volume 3, past performance, the projects that you bring to the table must have at least 10 FTEs. Okay, now the type of contracts, you can use both federal or commercial contracts, but at least one of the contracts must be a federal. So remember, if you have commercial contracts, they're acceptable, but at least one of the contracts must be federal. Now, you can also use subcontracts. So you could have been prime or you could be subcontract project, but the subcontracted projects are considered less relevant. So if you have to do that, but remember that you will get less marks because it's considered less relevant. So prime contracts is preferable. And then if you have CPARs, make sure that you actually provide those as well. So these are the past performance volume requirements. Now let's go into the price volume requirements. As I said, there's an attachment 4 seed project pricing sheet. It lists 10 LCATs for that seed project. and you have to price them for the base year, plus 4 option years and 6 months extension. Some solicitations, some RFPs, they do that automatically. They have a set, percentage like 3.5 or 3.9. I've seen the government use percent that they for the increase of each year. They have not done that here because obviously it's a little bit different considering it's a lot of work is OCONUS. So they have. And they have what they have allowed you to actually put in your own numbers for each option year and the 6 months extension. And then, as I said, there's also if you look at the sheet, you put in the numbers for 10 LCATs for these base years and option years, and then they have a similar section, but it's only for surge situations. So with the definition of surge being, outside working hours, or requests might be very quick, things like that. So you provide different pricing again for those 10 LCATs, but in surge situations, again for the base year and the 4 option years. And remember, you have to provide pricing for all LCATs. Even if you don't have them in your company, you must price it. So go and find the correct pricing. And there are many sources for pricing that the government sees as reasonable. I will in number 7, you'll see I've written your pricing will be checked for completeness. So make sure that all of the entire form is filled out. Reasonableness and balance. So some of them might, balance meaning that some may be too low, some too high. Overall, it should be, a balance. And the reasonableness, meaning that they should be within the range that the government accepts. And there are many sources you can use for that if you don't have specific pricing yourself. Now, for travel costs, as this is an OCONUS project, essentially, they've set a fixed $400K not to exceed per year. So you can don't use that in your calculations for pricing. And for some reason, I don't exactly know why, for that 6-month extension, they put $800K. Also, there is an employee compensation plan that you have to fill out. And it's a separate spreadsheet that you have to fill out, providing both the employee salaries and the total fringe benefits for each LCAT. So these are the requirements for the price. Okay, so here we come to the source selection process. Okay, so source selection, understanding this source selection process is really important because it gives you some insight as to how you actually should focus on different areas of the proposal. So there are 4 steps essentially: technical acceptability, ranking by price, performance confidence assessment, and then price evaluation. So first, they're going to look at the government's technical evaluation team. They're going to actually look at volume 2. This is obviously assuming that in volume 1 we haven't made any mistakes and everything is complete. Obviously, they usually check that. If, for example, you haven't signed the 1449, they'll put you aside completely. But assuming that we're good on volume 1, which are the administrative documents, first they're going to look at volume 2, and they call that technical acceptability. And it's a pass or fail for volume 2. So if you're good to go, if you pass the requirements, then you go to the second step, which is ranking by price. Now, you can see that they're not going to go directly to past performance. From their description in section M, what they're going to do is after you pass the technical acceptability part, so you get a pass on volume 2, then they're going to rank the companies who have passed volume 2 by price. So the lowest price, the lowest step, the overall price that you provided for that seed project, that's important. So that's why I said, even though price is less important than past performance, but they're going to rank companies on that basis. So say for STVOSP companies, they're going to pick the top 10 in terms of having the lowest prices, and then they're going to look at their past performance. If they're good to go, they're not going to look at the others. Well, they will, but essentially this creates this situation in that pricing is very important, because before they're going to look at your past performance, they have ranked you by prices. So there is a possibility that if your pricing is higher than the others, and in the first 10 that they pick that have the lowest pricing, and their past performance is fine, they will pick those 10 and you will never be considered. Obviously, they're going to look at your contracts, your proposals, but there is this possibility. So that's why price is important, because they rank it before they look into your past performance. So that's why your pricing should not be too high and should not be too low, obviously, but within the reasonable range, but in the lower range, so that you will be picked as the top 10 in terms of the ranking, the lowest prices. Once you pass that, so they rank you, and then they start looking at performance. And here they call it performance confidence assessment. They want to look at recency, they want to look at relevancy and the scope and everything like that, and the discussions we had, number of contracts you provide, how relevant they are, perhaps if they have been performed in the CENTCOM area, that's a plus, a very high plus, things like that. At the end of that, they will give you a performance confidence assessment. If you have that high performance confidence assessment, then they will go into your price evaluation again, but this time they check it for completeness, balance, and reasonableness. Obviously, that's for the seed project. And if you're good to go, you're awarded. So this is the process. There might be some back and forth between these steps, but I wanted to put in that ranking by price in there, so you have an idea how they're going to go through this process. Now they might change this completely with a full RFP, but so far this is how it works. So it's important to actually pay enough attention to price, even though it's much less important. I mean, the importance of past performance is, as they say, significantly more important than price. But because of the way they're going to look at the proposals, it's important that you pay enough attention to your pricing as well. So this is the process, the source selection process, that the government will go through to pick 10 STVOSPs and 10 8A companies for this project. Moving forward, let's discuss partnering, and this is very important because I've said it in 3 whys. So why is partnering important? You want to be able to cover as many of the scope elements as is feasible. So it's really important, especially in the volume 2 technical. You want to show the government that you have a strong team in place with sufficient redundancy and backup. So this is the management approach, both the technical approach and management approach. You can actually use partnering to the best there. And finally, you need to provide robust past performance projects, both relevant to the seed projects, 3 of them, to seed project, and then also relevant to the entire scope elements, the 14 of them, and 2 contracts there. And you can use partners to actually fill the gaps and strengthen your position there. So partnering is important both for volume 2, the technical approach and management approach, as well as volume 3, past performance. And since there's no limitation to that, you can actually bring in partners and use their past performance or their capabilities. It's really important that you use this to the maximum, to the fullest extent. Some special considerations: you must provide letters of consent for your subcontractors. If you're forming a JV for the 8A side, the JV must be approved for SBA, because at the end of the day, that JV must be 8A, has to have a designation, and that is given by SBA. So I doubt that you can actually form a JV now and get approval within even a couple of months from SBA. So do remember that. You might have an already in place JV or mentor protege JV, that's fine. That is considered 8A. You can use that. But it is important that if you're forming JVs, it has to be approved by SBA. JVs for 8A. For the STVOSB side, you have no problem, obviously, because you have to fill out a separate form. Now, the past performance contracts can be in the name of the JV or the members. Or in case of a prime sub relationship, they can be in the name of the subs as well. So you can see that partnering is very important, and you can use it to the maximum extent to actually be one of the 10 in either 8A or STVOSB sites. So that was partnering. And now a few recommendations I have for you. So to pass on the technical volume, ensure that you cover each and every aspect of the SAO, the statement of work, meaning the scope, those 14 area scopes, as many as you can. Bring in partners, everything, as well as sections L and M and the requirements. So it's really important that you cover everything. You don't want to get fail on that volume 2. It's a pass fail. You want to pass that, so you don't want to miss anything there. Use of highly qualified staff in your staffing plan is of utmost importance. So as I mentioned previously, that staffing matrix for the seed project and discussion of qualification of your staff and people that you'll be using is really important. Previous CENTCOM experience is highly recommended. So the more you can emphasize past experience with CENTCOM, if not with other comms, with other commands throughout the world, is really important. Now, tying your or your team's past performance experience into the SAO and into those 14 scope areas. So it's important to actually cite experience and past performance for those scope areas, not just say, hey, we can do that, we can do that. Tie in, create actually a win theme using your past experience and past performance, and then use that win theme throughout your writing. Need to be very strong on the past performance volume. Okay, so this is not a pass fail. You need to get high marks on that. This is probably where the main selection process will differentiate between different companies. So I'm assuming that most companies can actually, if they're prudent and they do multiple reviews, they can get a pass on volume 2. But at the end of the day, volume 3 is either you have it or not. So either you have strong past performance or you don't. So this is where differentiation between companies will take place, and the government will pick and disqualify others. Use partnering JVs or prime subs relationship to its maximum. You can benefit from your partner's experience and past performance in both the technical volumes as well as past performance volumes. We discussed that. If you lack CENTCOM AOR experience, use qualified partners is of utmost importance. So that's another thing. Now, in terms of price is checked for reasonableness and completeness. Don't try to drop your prices to the extent that if you win the IDIQ, you will not make such much profit. But at the same time, just remain in the lower end of the acceptable range for the government because of that ranking system that I discussed. In preparing your proposal, if you're preparing your proposal in-house, make use of third parties to review your proposal. The technical volume has many moving parts, and the past performance write-up needs highly proficient writing skills because you want to stand out against the others in your past performance write-up. This is where they're going to compare you with others. So it's really important that your past performance really shines and is concise. So these are my recommendations, and so there's a lot of work to be done. Don't wait for the full RFP to drop. Start right now. Start with your partnering if you have not done so already, and start preparing actually those writings, proposal, because once you start writing, you realize what your gaps are, then you can go after them. Don't wait for the full RFP to drop. Okay, now we've reached the Q&A session. Let's start with some of the questions we've received. If you have not put in your questions already, please type them into the chat system, and I will try to answer them one by one. Okay, so quite a lot of questions actually. Let's start from top. Okay, so question from John. Did you say that we don't need to have a secret FCL now to bid? Right. So from the language of the RFP, this is not one of the requirements that you're supposed to provide proof for at this time. At least this is, as I said, it's draft RFP. Maybe they change that in the full RFP, but right now you don't need that. But you need it before you can actually start bidding on the task orders. Okay, so Gary asks, this ranking by price seems odd. What if at the fourth stage somebody's price is considered unreasonable? So yeah, I mean, that's the way they've put it. Probably what they will do if they go by this way that they've explained on the section M, if at the fourth step somebody's price is, has a problem, either they will communicate with them. They have allowed, this to be able to actually communicate with contractors during the selection process, or they put them aside and pick another company, the 11th company, and go through the process with them. So far, this seems to be the way. Question from Amanda. Yes, we. It's a sales process question. Okay, so yes, Amanda, we provide proposal development service, as I mentioned, and you can send an email to Maroon or call him, my colleague Maroon Freedy, to set up a call to discuss our services in more detail. This stands for everybody else who has questions on our sales and services. Okay, question from Joe. Did I hear correctly that we don't need to include travel costs into our pricing? Correct, Joe. So when you're calculating your prices for the base year and the option year for each of the LCATs, do not include travel costs. That's a separate CLIN item. They've considered $400K for that. So do not include travel costs for that. For example, to OCONUS or to the AOR for CENTCOM or anything like that. Question from Bob. What's the reason for reviewing our compensation plans? Okay, so there's the FAR 52.222.46 called Evaluation of Compensation for Professional Employees. And essentially it says that it's in the government's best interest that professional employees be properly and fairly compensated. So they want to make sure that your compensation plan is within line with the recognized national and regional compensation plans and surveys and studies that has been done. So they want to make sure that it is the case. If you go to attachment 4, the second page, there's a full discussion of this, so you can read about that. More sales-related questions. So as I mentioned, please contact my colleague Maroon Freedy. Stephen. Okay, so you seem to have problem downloading the slide deck. No problem. Just put your email on the chat system, and I will send the slide deck to you after the webinar. So anybody else also who has problem downloading the slide deck, just write down your email and ask for the slide deck. I will send that after the PDF version after the webinar is done. Okay, Jamie's question: what qualification should we look for the LCATs required for the seed project? So attachment 3, if you go there, provides the requirements for all the LCATs. Make sure that you meet or exceed all of them. And then in addition to that, I should emphasize prior experience in the CENTCOM AOR. That's one of the pluses. And an active TS-SCI is a plus as well. So these two I can emphasize in addition to meeting or exceeding the requirements in attachment 3. Stephanie, did I hear you correctly that if we don't have experience in some of the 14 scope areas, we can use our subs experience? Do we have to provide past performance contracts towards all 14 scope areas? So there are two questions. Yes, so essentially you can use your subs experience first of all. Now the seed project is for strategy, plans, and policy support. That's what they've written. So for example, it doesn't cover other scope areas like intelligence, logistics, IT, language services, and so on. Obviously, you have maximum five contracts that you can bring to the table for past performance, and 3 of them should be towards that specific seed project. So at the end of the day, they're not expecting you to cover all 14 areas in the past performance. On the other hand, in the technical volume, they do expect you to cover as many of those scope areas as you can. So you can actually use your your own past performance and past experience of your partners in volume 2 and cover as many of those scope areas as you can. Now, the point is this: what you write and the experience and the contracts you use in volume 2 do not necessarily have to be the same ones that you're using in volume 3 past performance. In volume 2, the contracts you use and cite to provide experience, they don't have to have been, for example, within the past 5 years. Maybe that you performed them 10 years ago. They don't have to have 10 FTEs as it was a requirement for past performance. Here in volume 2 technical, maybe you did the contract with 1 FTE, that's fine. It just shows you have that experience. So the requirements are different here. I hope I've answered your question. Mark's question: where did that 10 FTE minimum limit for past performance come from? Can you tell me which page of the RFP it's written? Okay, let me look at my notes. Okay, here. So first paragraph, page 11, gives that requirement. And it also mentions the fact that if you're using obviously, in most contracts, you can't use the BPA or IDIQ itself as a contract citation. You have to provide task orders under that. Now, this 10 FTEs per task order, so you can't sum up, maybe you had 5 task orders, each of them had 2 FTEs, so the sum of the task orders is 10 FTEs. No, you can't do that. 10 FTE per task order if you're using an IDIQ type work. Okay, so I see a lot of sales related questions. We will reach out to you separately on these. So I don't want to take time of different people on sales related questions. I think I have answered all the questions, but to make sure, I'll go through the questions again after the webinar. So if I've missed anyone's question, I will reply to you by email. Okay, so thank you again, everyone, for participating in our webinar, and we look forward to seeing you in our future webinars as well. Have a great day.